The day I signed the papers, I thought I was signing up for my future. 18 years old, a little lost, and hungry for something real. The recruiter's office felt like the first step toward becoming someone who talked about purpose, about respect, about a brotherhood that would have my back for life. He painted a picture of structure, of becoming a man, of being part of something bigger than myself, and I bought it all. I saw myself in a crisp uniform, standing tall, finally someone people would look up to. It felt like the answer to everything I was looking for. The bus ride to basic training was a blur of nervous jokes and bravado. We were all kids playing dress-up, pretending we knew what we were getting into. Then we arrived. The shouting started immediately. It wasn't just loud. It was designed to break you, to strip away who you were before you walked off that bus. My name was gone. I was just recruit. Everything I owned was gone, replaced by identical gear. We were all the same now. The first few days were pure chaos, physical exhaustion like I'd never known. Waking up before the sun, running until my lungs burned, my muscles screaming. Every movement was scrutinized, every mistake amplified by a drill sergeant's voice echoing in my ears. They called it building discipline. It felt like being erased. It wasn't just the physical part, it was the mental game. They'd make you stand at attention for what felt like hours, staring at a wall just for folding a t-shirt the wrong way. They'd call you worthless, a failure, a disgrace. The goal was to make you doubt yourself, to make you so desperate for their approval that you'd do anything, and it worked. I saw guys, tough guys who bragged about fights back home, crying silently in their bunks at night. No one talked about it. We just pretended we didn't see. We were supposed to be a brotherhood, but in those moments, we were all alone, trapped in our own private hell. Admitting you were struggling was a sign of weakness, and weakness was a disease they were trying to cure. The first time I really questioned it all was during a field exercise. We'd been marching for days, barely sleeping, eating cold rations. One of the guys, a kid named Miller, he just collapsed. He was dehydrated, exhausted. The sergeant just stood over him, yelling at him to get up, calling him a quitter. I looked around at everyone's faces. We were all thinking the same thing. This wasn't making us stronger. This was just cruel. I felt a flicker of defiance, a voice in my head screaming, "This is wrong." But I said nothing. I just helped pull Miller to his feet, and we kept marching. The fear of what would happen if I spoke up was stronger than my conscience. That night, I lay awake staring at the canvas ceiling of the tent, and for the first time, I thought I made a huge mistake. That thought became a constant hum in the back of my mind. I started looking for a way out. I thought, maybe I can just quit, like a normal job. How naive I was. I subtly asked one of the few sergeants who seemed remotely human what happens if someone wants to leave. He just laughed. He said, "You don't quit the army, son. The army quits. You signed a contract. You belong to Uncle Sam now." The word contract hit me like a ton of bricks. That piece of paper I'd signed so eagerly wasn't an employment agreement. It was a bill of sale. I had sold years of my life. The walls of the barracks felt like they were closing in. The uniform felt less like a symbol of honor and more like a cage. The feeling of being trapped was suffocating. It's a silence you can't describe. You're surrounded by hundreds of people, but you've never felt more alone. You can't call your parents and tell them you're miserable, because you'd be admitting you failed. You can't talk to the guys in your platoon, because everyone is putting on a brave face, and you can't be the one to crack first. You definitely can't go to your superiors, because that's like painting a target on your back, so you just swallow it. You swallow the fear, the doubt, the regret. You go through the motions. You clean your rifle. You polish your boots. You shout the right responses. But inside, you're just screaming. You start to see the system for what it is. It's not about building you up. It's about control. It's about breaking you down into a component that fits perfectly into a machine. Your identity, your free will. It's all secondary to the mission. After basic things changed, but the feeling didn't. I got assigned to a unit, a real job. The shouting stopped, but it was replaced by a different kind of pressure. The endless bureaucracy, the waiting, the pointlessness of so many tasks. We were told we were defending freedom, but most days, we were just counting inventory or painting rocks. The disillusionment grew deeper. The brotherhood the recruiter promised. It existed, but it was a brotherhood forged in shared misery, in complaining about the system we were all stuck in. It wasn't the noble bond I had imagined. It was a support group for prisoners. We talked about cars, girls, what we'd do when we got out. We never talked about the crushing weight of it all. We never talked about the guys who started drinking too much, or the ones whose hands shook for no reason. I started to see two paths ahead of me. One was to just give in, to stop fighting it, to become the person they wanted me to be. Numb myself, follow orders, and just count the days until my contract was up. A part of me was tempted. It would be easier, less painful, to shut off my brain and coast. But then I looked at the older guys, the ones who had been in for 10, 15 years. I saw the emptiness in their eyes. The life had been drained out of them. They had become the machine. And I knew I couldn't let that happen to me. I couldn't lose myself completely. The other path was riskier. It was the path of resistance, not open defiance. That was suicide, but a quiet, internal resistance. A refusal to let them own my mind, even if they owned my body. So I made a choice. It wasn't a dramatic, movie-style moment. It was a quiet decision made in the middle of a sleepless night. I decided I would do my job. I would fulfill my contract to the letter, but I would hold on to a piece of myself. I started reading. I filled every spare moment with books, with ideas, with worlds outside the barbed wire fence. It was my escape. I started planning for my future, for the day I would be free. I researched colleges. I learned new skills online. I saved every penny I could. I was building a life for the person I would be on the other side. It became my secret mission. While I was cleaning gear or standing guard, my mind was somewhere else, designing my own future. It gave me a purpose that they couldn't touch. It was my way of taking back control. This journey wasn't about war or combat. I never saw a battlefield. My battle was internal. It was a fight to hold on to my own identity in a system designed to strip it away. It was about the crushing weight of a decision made when I was too young to understand its consequences. I learned that true strength isn't about how much you can lift or how fast you can run. It's about enduring the silence. It's about finding a flicker of light in the darkest of places and refusing to let it go out. For anyone who feels trapped in any situation, know that your mind is the one thing they can't ever truly take from you. Hold on to that. Build your own future in the quiet corners of your day. That's your way out. That's your path to freedom. Thanks for listening to my story.